It's time for the Other Three Amigos podcast. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.
On this week's episode of the Other Three Amigos podcast, was Lennox the one behind Usher's meeting with the fans? Will the club actually learn from that meeting? All the latest clubs in and outgoings. Wayne is off on holidays, but surely he'll be delighted with the 0-0 victory. We then head to Mailbag before finishing it off with a Shelbourne and Celtic preview. All of this and more on this week's episode of the Other Three Amigos podcast. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 25, Episode 287 in total of your multi-award winning podcast. Throw us a 5-star rating on whatever podcast platform you're listening in on. Dan Casey here, and I'm joined by my other two amigos tonight. Wayne Mullins is off gallivanting, but the two Deckies are in the house, Declan McCormack and Declan Carey. Why not join us on Patreon, patreon.com/TOTAP. We're doing our best with the time we have to give you a bit of value over there, and it's €5 a month to join. I also see someone's added a bit in here. You can also get access to all of our archive content, and this weekend we just launched our documentary episode on the rise of women's football, so be sure to check that one out. Declan Carey, I'm definitely presuming you put that in. Can you tell us a bit about the documentary, very briefly, what you thought of it?
Yeah, it was recorded in 2023, Dan. It was around the women's national team qualification for the World Cup, and Santa did a bit of finishing touches on it. It's something he's been working on, and we thought we'd put it up there for Patreon members. So, by all means, log in and have a listen. It's a excellent piece and some good inputs from a lot of folks heavily involved in women's soccer over the last couple of years, and fair play to Santa for getting it up there.
Fair play, indeed. Declan McCormack, we almost lost you again tonight. The Gremlins, the Gremlins in the internet out in Buin strike again.
Not my fault. It was the whole ESB network went down for about an hour. So there was no internet, there was no power to run microphones or roadcasters or anything else. So this time I am blameless and my internet is blameless. It was the ESB networks.
All right, well, it's time, lads, to head in to a bit of Academy Watch. Under 20s, they were beaten 4-0 by Galway United. Under 17s, they beat Galway United 2-0. O'Sullivan and Charlie Hanover with the goals there. Under 15s were beaten 5-4 by Galway. Cian O'Neill, Destiny Okerdia bagged himself the goal each. And then Ollie Lynch grabbed himself a brace. And our under 14s, they beat the Finger Lickers 4-0. Matko Simic, Bobby Harrington, Destiny Okerdia and Horan Tajoa with the goals there. It is now time to head in to Academy Watch.
Just on that, then, before we go, I think Conor Brand was on goal as well for the under-20s. Looks like maybe, I don't know, the club slotting him in there to get him warmed up for a possible stint in the first team, maybe coming soon, given Truce is left. But anyway,
how'd he get on?
He'd let in 4, but yeah. A source close to the podcast, an avid listener, was at the game and gave me a little rundown on Saturday. And yeah, look, let's hope we're not conceding 4 when Brand steps in for the first team, which looks like it's imminent. Like, I don't know if we'll have a keeper signed up by Friday, but let's wait and see.
We'll find out anyway when the podcast is released on Wednesday, who's coming in.
Yeah,
so,
pod goes out at 12 noon, so yeah, all the signings will be announced at 12:01, I'd say.
All right, lads, we'll drive it on to Academy Watch.
Academy Watch with Ivan Draco on the Other Three Amigos podcast.
The women's team were beaten by Peamount United 3-2 in Turner's Cross in the Women's FAI Cup. Decky, out of the FAI Cup, but what did you make of the performance?
Look, it was actually a cracking game. It was 3-2, but after extra time, City were 2-0 down, got it back to 2-2. And Peamount won it in extra time. Great effort from the players. You can't fault it. Again, there was a long discussion on Last Damas about, there was a number of players that started on that game on Saturday night, started in Dublin for the under-19s on the Sunday. Lily Foskin played for the under-17s and scored for the under-17s against Galway on Saturday, and later in the day then came on in that game. People can decide for themselves whether that's okay or not.
No, it's not.
Look, it's that would be my attitude as well. But as I said, there was a lot of discussion on Last Damas around that. Look, it was a good performance. It's not the result you want. And out of the cup at the first hurdle, unfortunately, I think there's good news going to come this week. They've signed Jodie Griffin from Galway. Jodie's a good player. I presume she's going to UCC in September, and that's why she's down there. But that's a very good signing. They've lost Aveen Donnelly, has gone the other way. She's going to Galway, having left us. So it's one in, one out so far. There will be other players coming in, but I think most of them are local-based players and will be coming out of the local Cork leagues. Jodie Griffin's a little bit of a surprise, so maybe there's one or two more surprises coming. But we'll wait for the Jodie Griffin announcement. I presume it will come before next Saturday. Or no, there's no game next Saturday, so I presume it will come before the next league game anyway.
All right. Well, our amputee team, huge congratulations to them. They won the IFA League Cup at home in the Cross, beating Bows 6-1. So huge congrats to everyone involved there. Sticking with Turner's Cross, and a man who was around Turner's Cross, I think in the last month or so, was Roy Keane in our Rockshore League of Ireland dad. Decky, what did you make of it?
Like, I don't know. I don't always want to be negative, cause you have Roy Keane, and it's a fucking fairly poor ad. It's nothing to do with Cork City. It's Rockshore, just built around Cork City. I don't know. It's pretty poor. I mean, if the best part of it is probably when Roy walks up to the gate and the security guard tells him the price of tickets, and he just turns around and walks away and heads for the pub.
No, what I found funny about it, Dick, was they said it was full, and I don't know if full means 1,800 capacity these days, or is there some kind of fire regulations or something like that? That's what I was like, it's full? What? When?
I listened with the sound off, and I just presumed she told him the ticket price, and he just turned and headed for the corner flag for a couple of pints.
That's all right. Roy is close enough anyway to the €18 range ticket now, isn't he? So he'll be saving £7 soon enough.
So that's true too. Yeah, look, it is what it is. It's Rockshore. It's based around us. Listen, anything Roy Keane is in is going to get eyes on it. He's wearing Cork City scarves. You'd hope it'd get a bump. You'd hope it would lead to a bump. I presume at some stage we might see a Rockshore bar in the ground. I don't know. I think there was always an objection to selling alcohol in the ground. You'd have to get a license and the rest of it. So will they, won't they? I don't know, to be honest.
It's about time, surely. Declan Kerry, what's stopping the bar being put in the Cross? The Dublin clubs haven't.
Yeah, I think it's just I think you have to apply for a license. Dan, there was something we looked into a couple of years ago around kind of subletting a license from one of those kind of mobile bar type of companies and stuff like that. But it's extremely tricky, and I think there was Gardaí concerns as well from any of the times I was involved in any minimal investigations into it. Really, if it could be done, extremely difficult. And I know we did look into it in the past, but yeah, I don't have exact specifics on it. And a number of various reasons, I suppose, and as well trying to decide where to place it. Obviously, I think up by the St. Anne's end is an obvious choice, but then,
lobbing points in over.
Yeah. Is that going to make it as will your singing section supporters then who who want to have a pint, or the corner boys they'll have to walk all the way up to the St. Anne's end then, and there's a whole various reasons I think why it might not work. But yeah, look, maybe it's something the club can look into. There's alcohol served in the Easy Living Suite, of course, but that's for exclusively the VVIPs.
But the difference is you don't pay for it, so it's not being sold. Yeah, so it doesn't need a license then,
Yeah, of course, yeah. So that's the only presence at the moment, sadly. So yeah.
All right. Well, a big talking point amongst City fans was the conversation that Usher had with fans before the St. Pat's game last Friday. Look, we're just kind of going off of hearsay, but from what we have heard, and talking about political rebels posting the forum basically is the only thing I've seen. Decky, have you heard anything else, or are you just going off that, and what did you make of it?
Yeah, I think a lot of it we're going off Jonathan's post. Obviously, the political rebel is Jonathan O'Brien, aptly named on the forum. Jonathan was one of the people present. I think there was 13 or 14 people there from a couple of the different supporters groups who are based in the Shed. They got to sit down. It seemed a little rushed in terms of organising it. Invitations went out on Thursday, late afternoon, early evening. Obviously, we were contacted straight away and given the heads up that it was on.
Not to be.
We weren't invited. We were given the heads up it was on, but we weren't invited.
Come here, seriously, I wouldn't expect in the slightest.
No, just clarifying your wording there, Dick. Just in case.
Oh yeah, no, sorry, yeah.
Not that we're upset about that. Anything, of course.
Look, I think it's a good move. You know, I think these forums where any fans get to sit down with the owner and ask the questions they want answered is a good move. Like my understanding, and it is an understanding, was that the club, based on what Declan Carey has said over the last couple of weeks, did reach out to Brian Lennox and requested a meeting. That meeting happened on Thursday. Again, as I said, this is my understanding. The club sent 2 representatives, the commercial manager and the football advisor to the owner, went and met Brian. And again, I think a lot of it discussed was around how to deal with fans and protests and everything else. And obviously, Brian probably said, like, you need to sit down with them. That meeting was Thursday. The invitations went out Thursday afternoon, late Thursday evening. I think there's a timeline there. As I said, I could be completely wrong, but it does look like.
No, I don't think you're right. Yeah, I don't think you're right. And I said, well, this isn't me now or us as a podcast, patting ourselves in the back, saying, because look, to me, it was the most obvious thing in the world to do as a private owner, to reach out to our most successful private owner of the past. Like, I'm no genius for suggesting that the club reach out to Brian Lennox. And look, it's something I did myself many times. And he just says, I've never had a time where he refused to help, and I presumed he would again. So that's why we were such, I knew the club hadn't reached out to him too much for help in the last couple of years, and that was disappointing. I know he goes to a lot of games. He's in the Easy 11 suite regularly. He has his seats in the Dorney Ford. He's still a avid supporter of the club, and he is City till he dies and beyond. And look, it's great. I was delighted when I heard that Brian was meeting with the club.
Absolutely,
and it's fair play. Yeah,
it's a good thing. And then obviously they took, I'm presuming Brian gave advice, and they took his advice and they went and met the fans. So that's another good thing, and that's another thing to be applauded, and another positive. And then obviously we're based on reports that Jonathan has put up. I got a DM from somebody who was at the meeting. I don't really want to give too much detail. Jonathan's report is very positive. The report I got was slightly harsher on Dermot Usher, I put it to you that way. But we want to be fair and context, and we'll go with Jonathan's stuff. And look, questions were asked. People who were there Jonathan felt they were answered. Again, that's a good thing. I guess probably the biggest talking point and the negativity of it is simply that when the ticket price was raised, seemingly the answer was, we all need to get over it, and that's not indicating that there's any real thought process from the club that the ticket pricing is incorrect or needs to be looked at. And I think everybody's feeling walking out of the meeting was that there's absolutely no room to look at ticket pricing. And the only way it will be looked at is if we end up as a first division club next year. I think that's a disappointing outcome, to be honest. Like, we've said this a million times, whatever about the adult pricing, and I'm not a fan of it, but you can kind of accept it.
I think as well, Dick, like that meeting, just on that point, and I'll let you carry on, like, the club should have went in with that mindset of take the bashing from the fans and just be receptive of all feedback. And the answer that should have been given when that question was asked was, everything is under review and we'll review it again at the end of the season. That would have been enough of a kind of a holding response. Depending if we got relegated or depending if we stayed in the Premier or we, attendances grew or whatever. But don't, it just seems like we're being stubborn to some extent and nailing our flag to the mast and just saying, no, this is it now, get over it. Like, especially in that environment where obviously I'm sure Brian gave the club advice that be receptive now of feedback, listen to what they have to say, don't shoot anyone down, like just be seen to be listening and to be taking advice and be open to change, because that's what the fans want, is change. And it's just disappointing again. It's like, no, we're not going to change. Tough, like, get over it. The answer should have just simply been, yeah, thanks for that. Look, attendances are dropping. We're looking at all the different reasons why attendances are dropping. Obviously, the performances on the pitch is the main one. But we'll be reviewing everything at the end of the season and leave it at that and just leave it open. And, But anyway, carry on. Sorry.
No, I'd agree with you. And look, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. And I was just going to say this. There was lots of talk about how well merchandise is doing. And listen, all that's fantastic. It's brilliant. We know it's great off the field. But 95% of the people who go into Turner's Cross on a Friday night don't give a shit about off the field stuff. They don't.
Yeah.
They're only concerned with where Cork City are in the table, how many points they have, how they're playing, who's playing for them, and where they are in the league. Yep. And that's about it. And that's, as I said, there's just 5% of the fan base, like ourselves, who are into the whole thing of how much has been spent, what's the budget, what are we doing merchandise-wise, how are we doing X, Y, and Z. The vast, vast majority of people don't care.
Yep.
And when you boil it down to on-the-field activities, it's just a write-off.
Yeah, we're failing.
It's a write-off, and there's no getting away from that. And talking about investment and budgets and playing budgets and wage budgets and all this stuff, it's immaterial.
Yeah,
it's immaterial to most people. The bottom line is we have 2 senior squads, 2 senior teams. Between them, they've played 33 league games this season. 32 league games and 1 cup game. They've won 4. Our senior teams this year have won 4 games out of 33. There's no defending that. There's just no defending that. And look, it is what it is, and we're trying to get ourselves out of it now, and we appreciate that, and there's clearly money being spent and clearly investments being made. I'm not going to do the whole why wasn't that done 6 months ago thing, because that's going to be done forevermore. We are where we are. We need to look forward, concentrate on pushing the team forward. And there was a big plea made not to protest during games, and the team needed the fans behind them. That's all fair enough. If we're sitting here in 6 weeks' time and it's gone from 33 games to 40 games or 42 games, and we've gone from 4 wins to 6 in total, the protests are going to be there. They're going to be there. It all comes back to what happens on the pitch. And that's the most important thing.
Like, if the club is very quiet on social media these days, unless it's a kind of a maybe I'm reading too much into it, maybe like a charity initiative, or we've gone on a visit somewhere and stuff like that. Because if we put up anything like an advertisement for something or whatever, you see it, people just comment under and go, "Oh, you're spending too much time, trying to sell merchandise. Why, we lost again last Friday." Like, people don't give a damn. Like, as you said, great news that the Rebel Army branding stuff and the clothing is going well. Early teething problems, fantastic to hear. It's bringing in good money for the club and stuff, allegedly. And it's great. But at the end of the day, as you said, people say this podcast is overly negative. It's, as you said, 4 wins and 33 senior team victories, and it's like that. We all want to see the women's team thriving, and we all want to see the men's team thriving. And when both teams are doing well, even when the women's team is doing well, you can see there's a great buzz around the place, and their players are, obviously they're not being paid or anything like that, or, anything to make it worth their while, I suppose. But when they're winning games, you can see the atmosphere improves even in the online community, and they're more active and they're more present around the place, and the men's team as well. It's just... that's better. That's the best marketing you can do. Win games.
Absolutely. And like this is my last thing on it now in this area anyways. Like I see people are getting, this amount of money has been spent and that amount of money has been spent and this, that and the other thing. Look around you. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. 4 wins in 33 senior games from 2 senior squads. That's it. It's all there on the pitch in front of you. You can read about figures and read about numbers. You can go watch a match and see what's on the pitch.
Yeah.
It's on the pitch. Will tell you everything you need to know, in my humble opinion.
That's where it all rolls up to at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like that's the focal point of Cork City FC is on a Friday night. No offence to the women. Great respect to them. Great respect for Frank as well, absolutely. And the work he's trying to do. But like I've no doubt in my mind Frank and John Ash are working within like difficult constraints and things they're trying to fix, no doubt. I'm not saying they're there because they're handcuffed and they're in difficult positions. The likes of Frank and Jor Nash as well. I don't know the guy. I know Frank a lot better than Jor, but I'm sure they'll think they can fix these things as well and work with the club. And look, I'll trust them if they have bought into it as well and they think that there's a path to like success at the end of this. Like, I'm very hopeful and I'm confident that like Frank isn't there just to, show up every week and get hammered. Like, I'm sure he wants to turn this into a proper structure for women's football and to grow women's football in the game and in Cork. And, he's had success in the past and had to step away. And Jor Nash, I'm sure, didn't leave a job in Scandinavia and in the UK to come across here. And, surely there's something in the background. And I really hope as well the club are capitalising now on the help that Brian Lennox has given and bring him in a more official capacity and not just like some token position now, like on the board and this like pseudo board of management or whatever that's supposedly in place. Like I'd like to see him brought in like as a firm advisor to everything that happens in the club, if that's possible and he's open to it. And we don't need to see about it or hear about it or it be announced in a YouTube video or a big press release that Brian has come in or whatever. He wouldn't even want that anyway, knowing the man. But I just hope the club are, trying to get every bit of information they can out of him because, as I said, he's more than willing to help, at least from my experiences anyway.
Declan Carey, from what you've seen, what did you make of the meeting? Obviously, not being there.
Yeah, look, I suppose I read Jonathan O'Brien's synopsis of it, and as Decky said, there was 13 or 14 in the room, and I heard different things, and different people will pick up on different aspects of the meeting itself. But look, Dan, as I said, it's good to see it happen. It's good that the club have taken Brian's advice on board very quickly and executed something very quickly. I know there'll be some people saying, why wasn't such and such there or whatever, and you should have invited the podcast lads. That's never going to happen anyway, and we don't care about that. But it's good to see it happening. Again, we're relying on second and third hand information on what was said, but overall, let's just say it was a positive thing overall that it happened. But still, I think the club has some work to do in deploying this kind of fans first mentality and just being receptive to feedback and change, because if we're stubborn and not willing to change, this is only going to go in one direction. And I'm sure we can get to that later when we get to some of the Patreon questions or the mailbag. I just skimmed through some of them, but I guess that's just my take on it. Then I think Deck covered it pretty well there too and covered some of the main pieces. It's just all about results on the pitch at the end of the day, and the fans will get behind what the club is doing off the pitch if the on the pitch stuff is prioritised and delivers the results, and that will drag in all the other things too. Like if the first team is doing well and the women's team are doing well, you won't be able to get a spot in the golf classics. You won't be able to sponsor a player. All the good ones will be taken. The merchandise will be flying out of the shop because people are seeing Shawnee Maguire wear it and these top women's players that are representing the girls all over Cork wearing it, and they'll want to wear it. And like that's the best marketing you can do. And yeah, sadly, I don't think a year in the first division will do it for us like it has done in the past. I think the Cork public have grown wary now of the first division, and that's just absolutely not an option. So good to hear as well. We're invested in the squad. There's been some signings. I'm sure you've got them noted down, and we can cover that as well in a bit. But yeah, we've seen some signings come in now, and we got that guy in on from I don't think he's on loan. He signed permanently from Villa, and looks like the money has been put in. But look, I just hope that it's enough, given we're seriously running out of games. But yeah.
Lastly, I'll probably stick with yourself here. Given your history, he was there. The 25 quid tickets were of course brought up. The club budgeted for 4,000, and someone was saying if he dropped it to 20, if he said it dropped it to 22 or 20, the proposed attendance figure would increase, but it wouldn't be possible to drop prices and make finances work. Surely that's no good if there's nobody in the ground, which currently there is.
But it does look like the club is just going to persevere then with it. And
well, did that show there has been nothing learned then? Do you think it was a token thing, this meeting, or do you think there'll actually be genuine lessons taken from it?
To be honest, then, there is part of me that just thinks the match was on Virgin Media. The game last Monday night had the banners and this and that, and the club were worried that it was going to reflect badly on TV and that the chants and all of that stuff. Look, and to be fair, that's a smart move, because there is no worse marketing for the club than all this negativity on terrestrial TV, where the game has been shown to potential tens and hundreds of thousands of people. So look, call me a cynic, but look, the club has to use political means at times to get the fans on board and be seen to be receptive. And I just hope that the meeting with Brian Lennox and the meeting with the fans was all done in good faith, and that it wasn't just a means to quieten the singing and the protesting and the banners, which it didn't anyway. The banners were there, and they had black smoke, and they had 2 different banners this time, I think.
Jeez, they had toilet rolls and all with them.
I know. Yeah. I think Daniels took a few to take back to the gaff today, maybe. I don't know. He was down at the shed there gathering them up at one stage. Jesus. That was a joke, of course. That was a joke. No one get offended. Yeah.
All right. Well, look, there'll be questions about it, I'm sure, in Beng's bag a little later on, so we'll get to them.
Yeah.
Ins and outgoings. Well, actually, before we get to that one, there's a Forest night upcoming in Collins, Declan Carey, the 20th anniversary of the league title.
Yeah, we should probably play the old school commie watch jingles for this one. But yeah, look, Forest, sent out an announcement to their members and gave us the heads up as well. They're doing a 20th anniversary celebration night for the 2005 league winning team. So this was, your Georgies, John O'Flynn, Mick Devine, Alan Bennett, Dan Murray, Danny Murphy. It's all those great lads. And it's in Collins, and it is on
2nd of August.
Yeah, 2nd of August, yeah. So that's a Saturday night, I believe, in Collins. So Collins is where you usually go. They show the city games when we're playing away from home. So Forest members are getting first access to tickets, because I imagine tickets will be limited. And, I think then they'll potentially go on general sale as well. So, great to see that. And fair play to Forest. Looks like they're putting on this great event. And I know they reached out recently as well to help some supporters groups with possible travel and buses. And, they're still ticking along, and fair play to the lads for organising this on the board again. They're all volunteering here, lads, and trying to pull together activities and events that bring City fans together and be a voice for City fans, and an organised voice. So fair play to them. And stay tuned for more news on that and Forest socials.
All right, fair play for us. Ins and outgoings. Aaron Healy, Decky is gone to play for the Finger Lickers, but as called a few weeks ago by I think your good self to play for his dad. What you make of that one?
Look, it was pretty obvious. I think it was a very obvious move for everybody. Look, Aaron needs to play. By far and away, the most important thing now is that Aaron starts playing, gets minutes, finds his feet as a proper footballer, if that makes sense. He's been very bit part at Cork City. Lots of people think Aaron has lots of ability and has the mentality and everything else to go far in the game. Hopefully that is the case, but I think by far and away getting out of Cork City was the best thing for him. And obviously Kerry was a very obvious. Once Colin took over down there, it was just, Stevie Wonder could see that move coming, to be honest, So best of luck to him.
And I don't think there's nepotism involved here. Like, look, I know there probably is a slight amount of it, but to be fair, I think he'll play for Kerry, and I think
He
he'll do
will.
very well.
He will.
And
Yeah.
he's a good player for them, and it's great that, like, I would probably call this like I don't think it was announced as such, but I do see this as like a kind of an unofficial loan agreement. Like, if he plays well and sets the world alight, and Kerry end up staying in the first division, which I think they probably will, for next season, there's every chance he'll be back next year. Let's see how he gets on, and we'll keep a close eye on him, because he's a great lad, and as you said, great mentality. I used to see him out in Bishopstown myself, sometimes just like training on his own in the gym when nothing was happening. Like, so, fair play to him, and look, best of luck to him down in Kerry.
Troost and Shipston got their farewell announcement, and also our marketing manager is gone. So that's a treat. I go with the Troost and Shipston one. Dickie, how important is now getting in a decent goalkeeper for this?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's absolutely vital. We're actually recording on Tuesday night. Normally it's Monday night. We put it out yesterday for Monday night, and then we suddenly realised Christ, tomorrow is the first. They'd surely announce a couple, so we'll hold off till Tuesday night. They didn't announce a couple, as Deck said, half messing way to go. They'll probably start announcing them lunchtime on Wednesday. But look, yeah, we have to get at least one keeper in. We were linked with Brendan Clark, who was in the team of the year last year at Galway, and now has been superseded by a young lad in on loan there. So is Brendan Clark available? Don't know. We have definitely 100% spoken to Lee Stacey. So I think there's an expectation that Stacey... It does make me wonder, because the story was told that on Monday, Troost agreed to stay, and then on Tuesday, he decided he wasn't staying. Now, obviously, the inference there is that the protests at the Drogheda game influenced Team Troost.
No, they
didn't. But irrespective of that, we were talking to Lee Stacey long before that happened. So I wonder, was the idea that we were bringing Lee Stacey in as a number 2, or did we always know that Troost was going and we're bringing him in as a 1? I don't know, but I think the expectation at this stage is that we probably see Lee Stacey end up playing football here. The fact we're linked to Brendan Clark as well makes me think that maybe Stacey might be seen as a 2, and they look to bring somebody else in front of him. But then where does that leave Conor Brand? I really don't know. And I'm speculating. Dermot Usher told the meeting that there was 3 announced and there'd be 3 more. Obviously, a goalkeeper has to be one of the 3, and it was going to be one big name from within the league. So then the question is, what's a big name? Do you know?
Yeah,
how do you define a big name?
Gary O'Neill or Pat Hoban or someone like that.
To me, Gary O'Neill isn't a big name. Like, that's no disrespect to Gary O'Neill. Yeah. He would walk straight into our side. He would start every week. He's a very, very good player. But in terms of a big name in the league, is Gary O'Neill a big name in the league?
I think the club probably just love Shamrock Rovers so much that they think any player that plays with them is a big player.
Maybe so. To me, the big player in the league, if you're going with a bit, is Pat Hoban. Now, people are going to be going, no fucking way, he played for Dundalk, he tied a scarf onto the post, he did all those things. We know all that. I said last week, Hoban's 100% leaving Derry. He's 100% available. Tiernan Lynch just doesn't seem to have much time for him. And that happens. Players and managers, they clashed. Manager doesn't think he's particularly good, whatever it may be. So you'd have to imagine Hoban's on his way out of Derry. Not Dundalk. Bohemians was always the rumoured spot. He's going to end up with Bohs. They signed Douglas James Taylor from Drogheda. Obviously, somebody I advocated a lot for last year. Dan MacDonald in his piece said he had a lot of interest from around the league. I would like to think that we at least picked up the phone and rang the lad and sought to see what was happening and whatnot. So
we're just not an attractive prospect though for players.
No, we're
like
not. Of course not.
But then you look at there's a good gap now between us. Like, mind the gap.
So then you look at Hoban and you go, what are Pat Hoban's options here if he is leaving Derry?
Would Galway he's from
Galway.
Galway.
It's kind of ourselves at Galway because nobody else. Like, he's going to be on a good wage. Let's not kid ourselves. And more power to the man. They've always said that players deserve as much as they can get.
The only thing is, I know we refused him back in, was it 2018 or something like that? Wasn't it? Couldn't pay his wages or didn't want to pay his wage, and we didn't sign him in the end. And maybe he already has that relationship with Caulfield that I don't know. Maybe.
I was thinking the other thing that's quite possible he won't ever want to play for Caulfield,
Who knows?
Like
honestly.
He's from Galway. He kind of the thought process that he might go to Galway before he went to Derry. I don't know. I just have a feeling in my water that we're going to end up with Pat Hoban down there.
He'll go.
And that's purely my own
money.
That's purely my own stuff.
Yeah, money is dictated. Whoever gives him the most money, he'll sign for. I would say. I wouldn't say there's a lot in it between us and Galway, and if we pay him more, he'll come here. Which I think we've beat them out for players before. So
So then, are the three Lee Stacey, Gary O'Neill, and Pat Hoban?
If they were,
who knows?
Do you know what?
It'd be good. It'd be good.
Yeah.
It'd be good. Like
goalkeeping situation wouldn't give you the biggest amount of confidence, but
O'Neill and Hoban would be good anyway. Well, would Hoban be good? Who knows?
Tried to get Lee Stacey down here a couple of years ago when Fenn was the manager. I think he was with Longford around that time, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Fenn tried to bring him down at the start of 2020, and then we got Liam Bosson instead.
And the rest is history, as they say.
The rest is history. A cult hero was born.
Lee Stacey went down to Cove and had a very good season at Cove, but I think that time he was at Cove. He was only training in Cove one night a week. He was training in Dublin the other two. He was working as a school teacher and driving a taxi at the weekend. So he was a busy man, and obviously he got to move to Shamrock Rovers then, where I presume he's probably on some kind of professional deal. Look, who knows, to be honest with you, but let's see what happens.
An incoming Charlie Lutz from Aston Villa is in the door. Declan Carey, what do you make of this one? I know you already mentioned him earlier anyway.
Yeah, obviously it's Jordan Ash's contacts coming into play here, and he managed him at some stage during his time in Villa's academy. So I guess we'll wait and see. One of my close friends there, I was at his wedding last Saturday, is a Villa fan, and he goes to a good few games, and he never heard of him. So look, that's no slight on the lad, to be honest. But let's wait and see. Remains to be seen. Dan the jury will be out on him. At the end of the day, though, whatever about this guy, it doesn't matter now what age he is. Doesn't matter his experience. We just need him to come in now and deliver for Cork City FC and get us off the bottom of the table. There's none of this. Give him time to bed into men's football, and he might be a good player for us in the future. We don't have time for that rubbish. He has to be good straight off the bat. So I hope Jordan Ash has brought him in with an idea to have him actually make a positive impact, and he's confident he will. So we just have to trust Jordan Ash. He's obviously the guy that made the call on him and signed him and has all the knowledge on him. We have no idea what this guy's going to be like, but he has to deliver. There's no way about it. And he won't get any leeway because he's young and it's his first stint in men's football, etc., etc. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Decky, is he just going to be our Daniels replacement now, do you reckon?
Daniels is still here. He hasn't got his goodbye yet.
Well,
do you know? It's
according to the meeting, he's gone.
Yeah, no. Well, yeah, according to he's gone. Looks like Milan is staying. Milan and Bang. So, look, there we go. The question about Charlie Lutz. Look, as Deck said, I'm not going to pretend I know anything about the lad or that I've seen him play. I haven't. You go and you read stuff from his previous club, and to be fair, there's a lot of not positive stuff there, shall we say. But then, what's his name? Jays Kabia signed for Grimsby today. And if you read the posts under Grimsby's, it's great signing and was brilliant at Truro City and this, and I'm sitting there going, I wouldn't sign him for St. Mary's in the Munster Senior League, but that's football, it's opinions, and Charlie Lutz looks like a player who needs to find his feet again, and sometimes a move to a new country, a new situation, a new club can be exactly the thing a guy needs to kickstart his career. And listen, he'll get every opportunity here. And as Dick said, Jordan Ash has obviously managed him before, saw something he likes, believes in him, so he's brought him in, and that should be good enough for any City fan at the moment.
Well, it's definitely a new situation for him, I'd imagine. We'll finish up coming watch here. Leicester Celtic game. That game is now moved to Saturday the 19th of July, taking place at 12 p.m. in Turner's Cross. Declan Carey, you were talking to me before we started recording, but there's actually a women's game in the cross on the
It-
same day. So do you think we're going to do some sort of double package type thing?
Oh, God. I hope now the obvious thing doesn't happen and the women's game gets moved to Bishopstown.
No.
Yeah, so, look, maybe the club should do something. This is just an idea. Anyone who buys a ticket for that Leicester Celtic game gets in free later to the women's game. Just show your stub or show the QR code or whatever, and you get in. Maybe do something like that. Maybe I hope though that's not a means to justify it being 25 quid. I hope
Better not be.
I hope that there's some kind of solution there. But look, obviously because the gate is shared between the club, Leicester Celtic, and the FAI. I think all three parties have to agree on the pricing or whatever. But look,
FAI don't get a cut anymore, only out of the final.
Oh yeah, nice one. So,
well, what's a fair price then for the double? 15 surely at most.
15 at most for 2 games.
372. No, but look, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be 25 quid. I genuinely think it's going to be 25 quid for the Leicester Celtic game. And then, as Dex says, free entry for this. But I genuinely think it'll be 25 quid. Like the women's game against Treaties at 5 o'clock. If they were moving that, then the men's game would be scheduled for later in the day. It's scheduled for 12 o'clock, I presume. It's over for 2. The lads are out of the dressing room, say for 2:30, 2:45 after warm downs, maybe 3 o'clock. Gives Treaty and Cork City women's teams enough time to come in at whatever time they'd be in, 3:30 or so, and get ready for a 5 o'clock kickoff. That's the only reason I can see for a midday kickoff. Midday on a Saturday, I don't think you could have a worse time for a kickoff, to be honest with you. But
if there's 25 quid, it shows that he's learned nothing. If it's 25 quid, like, come on. Dickie, or Kerry, you were saying something.
Yeah, I do think, yeah. I'm just nervous about that, then, to be honest. Let's wait and see.
All right.
Maybe the club does seem to be taking heed of some of our advice recently. So, my strong advice would be take a look at that game anyway. And yeah,
all right.
Talk to Brian again on that one, please.
We'll move it on. City 0, St. Pat's 0. We finally, Dickie, got the 0-0 victory. What do you think of this one? Albeit the most boring game of all time.
yeah, we got the 0-0 victory. Look, we needed a clean sheet. We know that. And look, fantastic. We got it. No people stop talking about it. Or else, like me, to go, we've only 1 clean sheet in 22 games. That's a disgrace, But look, okay, it was important we got a clean sheet. We got it. St. Pat's were everything and worse than what we said they were going to be last week. They were slow. They were methodical. They were boring. They were just they're just a fucking awful football team.
But they really are. When I looked at their lineup and bench, I'm thinking these are good players, absolutely. And even they're all right. Their head coach, he's got great success in the league and internationally, and everything. International experience, I say, not success internationally, but on paper, what the fuck is going on there? I know we're not ones to talk, we're rock bottom, so
I know.
I'm sure the Inchicore lads listening are ready with their phones in hand to tweet us, but come on, lads, they're a bigger shambles than us, because the money they're spending. And
exactly, and there's huge money put in there, and Kenny got a huge deal, 5 years. I don't know, what it comes down to, what it looks like to me is is Kenny done? Do you know what I mean? Is he? He's getting nothing out of them. Absolutely nothing out of them. We should have won that game.
They've no bite. They've no kind of they don't have what the top teams have there.
What's happened, Chris Forrester this year? He was this free enigma, scoring great goals, just doing his thing. It's the structures and the way they play. Now, I know he was being injured and he only came off the bench the other night coming back from injury. But it's just, I don't know. I just look at them like you, Deck, and I'm just completely astounded as to where they are and why they're there. But as you said, we said this before the games played, they would be slow. They're slow moving the ball. They're very methodical. They're boring. They're boring to death. And It's a game we should have won. And I keep saying this. Ger came out afterwards. He's like, look, a clean sheet is good. It's a great starting point. It's something to build on. That's fantastic. But we don't have time for great starting points. We don't have time for building on clean sheets. We have to start winning games. And only for the fact that Bohemians equalised against Sligo in the 96th minute, things would look a hell of a lot worse than they look now.
Just about to say it, yeah. Like, I saw Ger Nash on the pitch. That you could clearly see him remonstrating with, like, remember the club staff trying to find out, like, how did the Sligo game finish, because they were 1-0 up and geez, they couldn't hold on. But like, they look, the worrying thing for me is they look far more capable of getting 3 points, which when you're in the bottom 2 are like gold, and they look far more capable of getting the 3 points. Like, they beat Galway the week before. They were 1-0 up against Bohs away from home until the last minute, and Bohs got an equaliser. And there we are on the pitch, like, you know, hoping to God that they didn't win, because otherwise it would have been 6 points of a gap, and even if we beat them in a couple of weeks' time, we'd still be 3 behind. Like,
and like this point was made previously in this podcast numerous times. It's like we're used to this. This is their 3rd year having a poor start to the season, and then the 2 previous years they've gone on and finished quite strongly and moved up the table, and they know the kind of player they want. They've signed James McManus on loan from Bohemians today. They've brought in Ryan O'Kane from Shelburne. No, I don't rate O'Kane at all, I'll be honest with you. He wasn't that good at Dundalk. Him going to Shelburne was one of the strangest transfers I've seen. But I have a lot of time for John Russell, and he does well with players. Like, and as Deck says, the worrying thing is that Sligo push on, and we just, you know, hopefully we won't get cut adrift. We've lots of new players, but it's a huge battle, and we just don't have time to not win games, especially home games.
And I wouldn't say they're in great form, but they do have this ability to, like, win 1, lose 1, draw 1, win 1, draw 1, lose 1, win 1. Like, we just, again, like, we're not picking up wins at all.
Like, only Drogheda and Shelburne have drawn more games, but we've only 2 wins. Like, no matter what way you sum it up, we have to win games. And as I said, I keep feeling so sorry for Jernash, because he doesn't have time to build foundations. He doesn't have time to build a squad. None of that. He has to win games. And we played 2 home games in 4 days, and we drew the 2 of them.
Yeah.
And
I feel sorry for Kit Nelson as well. That, like, you know, just announced again that he was going to stay on for the rest of the season, and the chance he got. But, like, this is what happens when you're at the bottom of the table. You zone in on the one big chance you get in 90 minutes, because we didn't create that many chances against a very poor Pats team and a very slow Pats team, as you described. And unfortunately, his touch just absolutely killed the chance. And then he had to take an awkward one on his left foot and ballooned it over the bar. And then everyone's looking at that saying, you cost us the 3 points. But, like, at the end of the day, it's not him. It's our inability. We, as you said in last week, we appear to have lost the ability to score goals and create chances, which is one thing we were somewhat good at a couple of months ago. People would have said that there was no fear of us scoring a few goals. It was more the leaky defence. Now it looks like since Ger has come in, we have gotten a bit tighter, but we've gotten a bit more boring ourselves, to be honest. And I feel sorry for Kit Nelson, to be honest. He's played well in games for us this year, and big chance fell to him. Whatever happened, I think the ball might have bobbled just before he took the touch, and it just got away from him. And I was like, I knew as soon as he took the touch.
You have to score.
I know.
You have to score.
But it was the touch killed him. I knew as soon as he took that touch, he was going to balloon it over.
But you have to. But why are you snapping through it? Then you just roll it into the corner with your left foot. Like, there's always options.
But it's the panic. It's the panic. You're only getting one chance in the game.
Lack of confidence and all that thing.
Lack of confidence. You know another chance isn't going to come again. It's all this things going through a player's mind in that split second. I have to put this away. And he didn't. You know.
But, like, and this is something I've spoken about before, Dak. And I have a lot of time for Kit Nelson. He's been he's definitely one of our best players this year, if not the best player we have this year. But we've forgotten what good players look like.
Oh, gotcha.
I keep saying that. We've forgotten what good players look like.
This is good player in the bar of finishing ninth deck, to be honest. This is not like up there that he should be picked up by Shamrock Rovers or someone like that at the end of the season or anything. No, like this is just good players that can get us a win against average teams.
And like, you have to finish there. Like, I know it sounds harsh in the moment, but like you have to. And then maybe, here's the thing. Maybe if he finishes there and we're 1-0 up, Pats come out all gung-ho, they change their approach, they change their man, and they beat us 2-1 like they didn't, up in their place with Lake Coast. But like, we can only go on what we're presented with. It's kind of the only real goal-scoring opportunity we created. And that's as you said already, that's a big issue as well. But no, I'm not, like, you have to score, and Kit will know that, Jernash will know that. It's a confidence thing, it's belief, it's all those things, like, but we have to find a goal from somewhere. We have to, like, there's times in the game, not through chances he created, but there's times in the game that Shawnee looked a class above everybody else in his movement and the runs he was making and the space he was taking up. And you're kind of looking and going, there's nobody else understands the run he's making, or nobody else understands the ball he wants played. And
I'd say he misses Shepherd and Dooley and
Greg at the time, and Garrow and Morrissey, and as you said, Dooley one side of him, Shepherd the other side of him, like,
Kevin O'Connor, Benno, these lads, like, these are the great players you allude to. So good stuff. We need to find wins. 2 points in 2 home games. It's grand, but it's not what we needed. Like,
we're getting sidetracked by past glories here now once more, as every City fan seems to do.
Bring back Georgie and Flinney.
Tactically, what did you make of Jornash's performance?
Like, it was grand. Look, we were much more solid. I'm not sure we were tested all that much by Pats either, to be honest with you. Look, we needed a clean sheet. We got it. Now he has an issue, and that Teen Troost is gone. He's brought 2 centre halves in Rory Feely and Fiacre Kelleher. Do you start 3 new players with 2 centre backs and a new goalkeeper? Well, you have to start a new goalkeeper. Obviously, you're going to start Fiacre Kelleher. Do you start all 3? Right, and we'll get to this, I guess, in a minute. Like, I'm getting sidetracked here now. But look, we were far more defensively solid. We seem to be working harder than we had done in previous weeks. We're lacking going forward, though. Jack, and he's probably not going to play anymore, but he was coming very deep for the ball. There's no midfield runners we don't have midfield runners going beyond the front man. And when you have a 1, as we had with Shawnee's the low man up there, Shawnee's going to come deep as well, looking for the ball. He's going to try and pull into pockets of space. You need to get runners going beyond them. And we haven't seen much of that. And I understand why we didn't, because Ger wanted to be solid. He wanted to keep a clean sheet. That's fantastic. But no, we need to add the other element. Like, and it's just so difficult for him. That's the thing. Like, in the time span, the situation he's come into, it's a horrible situation for your first gig.
I reckon, Deck, we went out for the draw, and we were hoping Bows would beat Sligo, and we'd peg it back.
Yeah, very possibly.
And then with them playing them, they're
playing Shamrocks.
Home to
Shamrocks.
Yeah, and then us with Shels away, and we're going to have to look at these head-to-heads every week. So do I blame him for maybe doing that? You always say, oh, you beat who's in front of you and don't worry about the other team. But sadly, we have to, because we're catching up with them, and we need them to drop points, because it's not in our own hands at all anymore to stay up this season. So, like, we need teams to drop points, and I reckon he was hoping Bows would beat Sligo, and he said, you know what, I'll go all out, get our clean sheet on the board, and claw back a bit from Sligo, bring it down to 3 points, and then we play them in a couple of weeks and we'll beat them. I think that was his plan, but maybe I'm overthinking it.
We need to win games. We need to win games.
We put it to the TOTAPers for their thoughts. Fake News says first televised game without a goal this season. Billy Dorney says long way off safety, unfortunately. Wayne says meh. David Crowley says, my birthday tomorrow isn't ruined, I guess. Ryan Cronin says, boring as fuck. Richie with the absolute cracker here. The only thing I remember about that game was the fact I got the shits just before halftime and nearly shat myself trying to find a toilet that wasn't fucking blocked. Scott Buckley says, better than nothing. Richie also says, clean sheet was all Truce fucking cared about. Taking 2 minutes over every goal kick when we were chasing the game. FFS. Joe Langford, St. Pat's tonight were the worst side to come to the cross this season. We got a long overdue clean sheet, but the 3 points were there for the taking with a bit more belief. Brian says, clean sheet. Jack Squibb, boring is positive in City's case, but lack of aggression to win ball back or try pushing forward to get chances. They're just so passive and no desire to actually win a game. Sean says, Christmas miracle. Connor says, Truce left us a going away present. Over to you, Connor Bran. Luke O'Malley says, my thoughts are, I cannot wait to see the back of Charlie Lyons and Anderson. Oisin says, usher in. The Bows Phoenix left the League of Ireland summary projections table. We sit bottom with a 99.3% likelihood of getting relegated, albeit I think it's supposed to be bottom 2, Sligo or 94.1.
Yeah, exactly. That lad needs to adjust his tables to reflect what happens in this league and not just use an English to relegated system or Scotland to shove his nonsense at us, like, you know. If you're going to do something, do it properly is basically what I'm saying.
Stop, yeah.
Des O.D. says, usher in fans in brackets undermining their own club out. Roy O'Sullivan says, Anderson is a liability. Trevor McCarthy, an improvement, but too little too late now, surely. Kieran Deneen, the bed can finally be changed, thank God. And Philly Crowley, a movable force met a stoppable object tonight. So
good old Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant reference there, I think, was it? Anyway, sorry for the wrestling reference, everyone.
And yeah, that's it. That concludes the first half, TOTAPper. Come back to us in the second half. We're going to have Beng's Bag as well as the Shels and Celtic previews.
Okay, listen up, toe tapper. Do you love us? Do you sit back and wait every week for the pod to drop? Do you close your eyes and listen to our dulcet tones? If you have answered yes to any of these, we need you to show us the love financially. There are costs involved in creating this multi-award-winning podcast. And if you aren't already a Patreon, then it's time to stop being a freeloader. For as little as $5 a month, you will get weekly exclusive pods. There's access to data, a member section of our website, special early bits of the normal pod, and you can have direct one-to-one access to us with new benefits also on the way. So head to patreon.com/TOTAP and sign up now.
Welcome back to part 2, TOTAPper. It's now time for Beng's Bag.
He has got the looks, he has got the style, he is a bowler at the back. He has got a big bag, and it is magnifique. It's Beng's Bag, baby.
To the Patreon questions first. I see we did get a complaint last week that we didn't hit all the Patreon questions. If a question gets like personal with someone, we're going to leave it out. But also, if we have a discussion in Common Watch or something about the question and I feel like it's kind of already been dealt with, I'll also leave it out. So that's probably the reason, and same with the Twitter questions. But here we go for tonight's ones anyway. Jason Shanahan asks, surely someone like Paul Martin is a far better option than Lee Stacey in goal. Kerry.
Probably, Dan. Look, Lee Stacey, as you said recently, when he got a good stint at Cove, he had a good season. He's third choice, I think, at Shamrock at the moment. Look, can he come down here and do a job and be a bit more vocal, help the defenders, be a bit more commanding maybe than Truce, and add some of the qualities that Truce didn't have? I think so. So look, again, it's just all about, can he come down here with the right attitude, help us keep more clean sheets, and, you know, does Jordan Ash think that he can keep us solid at the back, which is what we need. But, you know, obviously 2 new centre-halves coming in, which I imagine they'll go straight in now. I don't think we'll see the pairing of Charlie Lyons and Anderson any longer. So that's it. That's probably more important, I think, than Lee Stacey. He's not a liability by any means. Like, it's just like, you know, I think all of us have this image in our heads that we should probably be signing top class goalkeepers and guys that are performing at their best and not on the tail end of their careers. And third choice goalkeeper at Shamrock Rovers doesn't look the best on paper, but I think, look, let's give him a chance, and I think he'll be okay.
Billy Dorney, probably more of a statement than a question, but is there any chance someone could send me into a cryogenic chamber and wake me up in a few years when all this complete bollocks of a club sorts itself out? I'm on an LOI WhatsApp group with people, fans of Shamrock, Derry, Shels, Bowes, etc. And we're an absolute joke of a yo-yo club, according to all of them. You know what? They're fucking right. Pissed off defending the indefensible. Sort yourself out, CCFC. Fed up with the excuses. The refs/loanees, lack of funding, small squad, etc., etc., and all the other shit we've been hearing for years. Sort it out as a club. We're done.
In fairness to Billy, you'll always know where he stands on an issue anyway, won't you, and what he's thinking. The best advice I could probably give Billy is, leave the WhatsApp group. Things probably won't seem as bad then, But outside of that, I'm not sure. Like, the cryogenics thing is out of our control anyway, for certain.
You can't run from the WhatsApp group when you're being wound up and all that. Like, that's a pure Wayne move, like, isn't it? And then 10 minutes later, add me back there.
Oh, shit. Richie says, if someone approaches Usher to buy the club now, do you think he takes it? Or does he feel the need to turn it around? Kerry.
Do you know what, Dan? If everyone has a price, as Wayne said last week, if someone comes, and as I said last week and in recent weeks, I'm sure it's not an easy time for Dermot at the moment on a personal level. I've been where he's been now, and it's not easy. I'm sure it's not easy for him and his family and people close to him and all that. If someone came to him and said, here's 5 million or something, and I'll take this stress off your hands, would he consider it? I think he'd be bonkers not to be honest. But look, I think at the end of the day as well, he's a successful businessman in the past, and I think he might have that, business like stubbornness to make a success of this and stick it out. And we hope that bears fruits for us on the pitch, like, of course, more importantly. But I think he would consider it if the right offer came along, to be honest. Why wouldn't he? Like, he's, if he got back all the money he's invested so far, and he has done that, to be honest, and was happy enough with whatever offer, I'm sure he would consider it. But look, that's only my opinion. It's what I would do if I was in his shoes. I would consider it anyway. You'd have to consider any potential offers. And he has made offers as well for others to come in and invest. So I can only go off that as well, that he's already sold a chunk of his share of the club, and he's approached others from what we're led to believe as well. So yeah.
Yeah. How do I... Okay, Dermot was, the reports in the meeting said that something along the lines of, like, he's put in 2 million or 2.1 or something in total since he came in, and he said that's money I'll never get back. I'm not so sure about that, to be honest with you.
I agree.
I don't mean that facetiously. I think at some stage the club will be sold, and it's a matter of what does he get for it. And look, there was a line where, again, we're only going on reports because we weren't there, but according to reports, it was stated that he said he was going to be here. If we went down, he was going to be here next year because he's so invested in the club and he wants to get it right and he wants to do brilliant, fantastic. As I said last week, I still believe the best outcome is Dermot Usher remains in control of the club for the foreseeable future and gets things right. That's by far and away the easiest way. But then he said at another stage of the meeting that I think it was said to him that he shouldn't take protests personally. And Dermot responded by saying, well, of course I'll take them personally, because if you're attacking the club, you're attacking me. And if you're holding up banners with my name on them, then of course you're attacking me. So I have to take it personally. And then there was something along the lines of, and if it continues, or if it doesn't stop, or it gets on it, then I may have to consider things. So there was an edge there to allow him an out by saying, look, I want to remain, but the fan protests are driving me out and the rest of it. We don't know what way this is all going to play out.
Yeah,
Like,
and he can't. That question about will you stick around if we get relegated? He's not. He's hardly going to say, nah, I'm gone, lads." You know,
I know, but I do believe him when believe him when he says he would. I do. I genuinely do. I do, and I think. Listen, as I said, and I'll say it again, and I said it 2 minutes ago. The best outcome is Dermot remains in charge of the club and he gets it right. But there's caveats, and like here's the thing, and this like. The Drogheda protest wasn't a massive protest.
No.
Like, we're around 30 odd years, Deck. We've seen protests. Like, we've seen big protests. That wouldn't even rank in the top 10, top 15.
I remember the Tommy Nobob's days, like the Cork Road lined with fans that refused to go into the ground, like, and all this. Like, Jesus, wait, like,
you know. But that was only all kids, according to the Echo. Like, you know, and, like. Still hold that against the Echo. 20 odd years later, still hold that against the Echo. Like.
There's still a bit of that going around too about this one. They're like, it's only kids saying this and that. Like,
you know,
no, it's not like it's not. You know.
So this wasn't a big protest, and for Dermot to be saying I understand why he takes it personally, but sometimes stuff has to wash off you as well. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and I know it's very difficult because we get some shit, you know, on forums and in DMs and things like that. And one of the things I've really learned over the last 5 years is just don't give a shit. Like, just leave it all roll off you, like, you know. And I think Dermot, if he could get himself to that stage where this stuff just rolls off him, it would be far, far better for him than him saying that he has to take it personally. But I understand how difficult it is.
You have to just
do that.
I know, Deck, you take the piss out of me now and whatever and all this. And look, I go along with the joke a little bit now with the RRC and all this banter and all this kind of stuff. But like, as you said, and I'm not saying I deserve any awards with how I handled my reign as chairman, but like, it got to a stage eventually where, you know, people were messaging me privately. They were attacking me online. You know, if I went on a night out with my buddies, people were coming up to my buddies and saying stuff about me, and they were messaging them, and they'd try and follow my buddies because I was blocking them on social media and stuff like this, like crazy stuff out there. There's these losers are everywhere, like, but you just have to like believe in your own abilities and believe that you're doing the right thing, and you've got the right people around you within your circle and all this, that you're doing the right thing, and you're buying into your own strategies, and you know, don't take advice from anyone, or that you wouldn't ask for advice from, like, and that kind of thing. But you know, there's idiots out there, like, and you have to, in this position, like, I hope Dermot has learned after a couple of years, like, the stuff about social media trolls and all this kind of thing, they're losers, like, and just ignore them, and you have to just wash it off, as you said. It's just, it's tough though. It's tough
but that's the problem then, though. This podcast gets lumped in with that then, and genuine concerns also get lumped in with the whole losers online thing, presumably.
Oh yeah, it does. And that's where you need to have the skill then to filter out the bullshit and take notice of, as I said, genuine people that have a history with the club and have good intentions, and don't just treat it all in the one bucket. Like, people say the same about CCFC Forum, like, they think, it's a cesspit of just absolute nonsense. But there's some great lads on it as well. Got lads that I've met in person many, many times and have gone for a few pints with, and they're like the most diehard City fans ever, and they make very sensible posts. And, you know, even our esteemed Fabrizio Mallo himself, like, he's the most good-intentioned City fan, or one of them that I know as well. And I'm sure the club have feelings about his opinions and things like that. But look, it is what it is. Filter out the noise. It's a skill you have to learn. Filter out the noise and learn about the different facets of feedback and the groups that are giving you this feedback, and take everything on board, but get rid of the crap.
Deck, can I just again give my thanks for unblocking me on social media eventually? I do appreciate it, you know.
Yeah, no props. No props, Deck. I know. All those DMs you were sending my missus and everything, like, tell him no, I said this. I'm only joking, of course.
Well, we're going to move on to the Twitter questions. Firstly, the Dogger says, can we actually talk about the club and not that bullshit fake sport called wrestling? Santi isn't real either, Kerry.
There is nothing more real in planet Earth than professional wrestling. And I leave it there.
Yeah. Top man, leave it there. For all of us.
Wayne says, Hi all, long time listener and third time caller. Can you please ban Declan from viewing the questions before the pod so he has zero time to do research? Thanks. Keep up the great work, lads. You're a great bunch of lads. So,
thanks to that long time listener, third time caller, whoever he is.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of filter out the bullshit and take on the feedback. So I'll take on the part where he said we're a great bunch of lads and ignore the previous rubbish. Anyway.
Val Maguire wanted us to talk about the player's performance and just leaves it at that. Ian Crowley says, are we positive about the signings, both announced and rumoured? Decky.
Are we positive about, as in...
Are we happy?
We believe, yeah, that's a good sign. Now, are we positive that the rumoured ones are coming in? Well, look, Rory Feely, I genuinely can't remember Rory Feely at Bowes. And it must be because this is never going to, it must be because we were a first division club when he was at Bowes in the Premier Division and we wouldn't have seen much of him. But lots of people around that time, looking back now and reading stuff and what, thought he was a really, really good player. Maybe it hasn't gone as well for him in England. But that happens. That happens. Lots of players and they come back. Ternash has made a big point of he's brought in players who want to be here. And that is actually really important. So we have Feely, we have Fiacre Kelleher. They have to be two good signings. Look, Fiacre's 29. He spent 10 years playing centre-back in the leagues in England. You know, Rory Feely was a good League of Ireland centre-back at Bowes, right? So we're upgrading, right? That's fantastic. That's exactly what we needed. We're not 100% sure in the goalkeeping position yet. But yeah, I think we should be positive on the signings. Ger has worked with Charlie Lutz, and you have to trust Ger. We have to trust Ger's knowledge of the lad and give him a chance. And of course, we will, a very fair chance. And we don't know what's coming. Like, I mean, if it's Pat Hooban, if it's Gary O'Neill, if it's Lee Stacey, they're all better than what we had. They're all adding experience as well to the squad, and that's huge as well. So yeah, I think we have a right to be very positive about the signings. The only question then is it too little, too late? But look, that debate's going to be done to death. Like.
Gareth, the bad boy Barry. Well done to the lads with the last two banners. They were excellent and straight to the point. How should fans protest without having a detrimental effect on the players? Question mark. We need points, but we also need to tell the Lord of the Manor we are not happy. Well, that's the thing, like, Kerry, I guess, how else are fans expected to show their displeasure at how things are going? I know in the meeting, it was reported, I think Dermot said he wanted fans to come up to him and tell him face to face, what they thought of it, rather than doing a protest. But I don't think he'd appreciate that either, to be honest. Like,
you can't get up to the VIP section, and he left the draw of the game fairly early from all accounts anyway. So like, how can that happen? But anyway, look, I'm going to take that at face value, and fair play to Dermot for offering that. But look, yeah, I think, like, to answer the question, Dan, I don't think the protests, as we'll call them, like protests, like fans with banners and a few smoke bombs and a couple of chants. I know they chanted, "You're not fit to wear the shirt" to the players after the Drogs game. We were lucky not to lose that game, to be honest, and we got I suppose on the other end, you could say we were unlucky not to win it as well, with Shawnee's chance at the end. But like, yeah, like, I don't think it's been overly harsh, to be honest. And look, we are bottom, and the players have to take some accountability here for their performances. And I don't think anything's been overly harsh, to answer Gareth's question.
Connor, I'll probably stick with you here for this one though. If Dermot leaves the club, does that make wages, transfers and other expenditures unaffordable? And does he take all or portions of a Rebel Army clothing and / our events with him? Are we in a spot where Dermot leaving would crash the ship once and for all?
Like, all that Rebel Army events and clothing and the stuff we sell in the club shop, like, that's all under the Cork City FC, like Canton Lane Limited or whatever. Like, I don't think there's separate companies for that and things like that. I don't think Dermot would have events supported if he sold the club and moved on and was still marketing things as Rebel Army events or whatever. Like, I don't think anyone would get behind those from Cork anyway, at least. But look, yeah, it's I think it's a tricky question, Dan. Like, if he leaves, he's obviously selling the club to someone or handing it over. And he said as well, if he's giving the club back to Forest, that he would give it back debt free for the same amount that he paid for it. And it's I don't think like the arse would fall from under it and he would abandon us. I don't think that's in Dermot's character, and I think he's not Tom Collin here. Everyone, like, in fairness to him, like, come on now, he's a good guy, I think, deep down, and I don't think he would leave a club like this, and he wants a positive legacy. I think that's one thing he was very serious about when he did take over, and like, I don't think he would just leave us there and tarnish his reputation to the likes of what Tom Collin has done, even though people still go down to the Marina Market and think he's the greatest hero that ever brought a gourmet burger down to the Marina. Like, but you know what? People have short memories too, but I still don't see Dermot doing that in this day and age.
The Rebels Academy says, after the alleged, in brackets, meeting with Usher last Friday, do you think he's being genuine and honest? I just can't help but feel he's lying to us again. And what do you make of the protests happening again versus Pats just hours after the meeting, Decky?
Oh, man above tonight. I think, as I said at the start of the podcast, look around you. Look at what we see. We have squads in the men's squad who have won 2 games out of 22 and are bottom of the league. The women have won 2 games out of 11 and lost the cup game, and they're third from bottom of the league. There's figures been thrown around. The off-field stuff is going brilliantly. We all understand that. Is he lying? No, I don't think he's lying. Can his figures be debated? I think they can. I think I'd love to get a breakdown, like this 1.3 million in budget, for example, the wage budget. I'd love to get a breakdown of that, which obviously I will never get. But look, it's last September I was given a wage figure, a budget figure, which wouldn't add up to 1.3 million or anywhere near it. We had Tim Clancy saying on stage that Dermot needs to spend money. We know that there was stuff last September, October between them around budgets and things like that. Then obviously, the exact same figure that I was given in September was given to me again a month or so ago by somebody completely different. Like, I find it hard to believe that 2 people at the club who wouldn't know that the other had spoken to me have both given me the exact same wage budget figure that doesn't get to the figure that Dermot gave. But, as I said, there's obviously more investment coming in this window, which is obviously going to add more to the wages thing. Was Dermot's figure including staff wages, coaches, things like that? Which then, of course, adds another layer to it. The figure I was given was just the player budget per week. So there are ways you get to 1.3 million. As I said, I'd just like to see the breakdown of Dermot's figure. We're never going to see that breakdown. I don't think he's lying to us. I just think there may be different caveats around different figures that if anybody ever got in a position to ask him to expand on the figures and break them down, it would certainly be an interesting conversation to have with him.
Philip, there's 2 rhetorical questions here. I don't see us winning a game for the remainder of the season. That includes Leicester Celtic. And Ian Draper was the black smoke which came out of the shed on Friday night, a sign that the Ultras couldn't agree on a replacement for Dermot. Dylan, Carey, you're getting one here. Does Declan Carey regret vouching for Usher as much as he did? Now, I think you've already had this one, to be fair.
I did. I answered this before on the pod to some extent, because, all right, like, I'm sure if everyone goes back in time, you listen to the TOTAP podcast of me vouching for Dermot before the election that was made by the Forest members that, pretty much voted him in a large number. But look, back when this was all happening, and I'll just cover this as quickly as I can. Like, Dermot was one of very few serious candidates, I'll call him, that came forward with like plans and wanted to have meetings and was really following through and had, done his research with the FAI and things like that. And, but at the end of the day, we did our due diligence on him as well with the information that we had. We didn't say that he was this footballing guru that was going to come in and transform the club of straight off the bat and whatever. We expected that there would be some kind of learning curve, because obviously his previous business success would not automatically translate to success in football. And, it was an unknown in terms of how his football management style would be. He said all the right things to us, I guess, in the early days, and he said all the right things even on this podcast when he appeared and when he spoke to City supporters. And, he got the ice cream truck there for Tony Tobin, and he was doing all the right things early on, and he was saying yes to everything. And ultimately, I guess no one can fully predict really how this was going to go. And look, the benefit of hindsight, I'm not a fool. Like, is there things now I'd think back and say, I'd probably ask Dermot or ask for a bit more detail on some of his specific plans and, how things were going to go. But look, at the end of the day, he showed us how much money he was willing to put in, and, he was willing to also sort out the Grovemore call option situation, and there was benefits to that. And so look, if I had my time back again, would I change things? Absolutely. But, with the information we had at hand, and at the end of the day, everyone, as I alluded earlier, this guy is not Tom Collin. Like, we've done our research on him. He doesn't have a track record the length of his arm, his one of his predecessors. And at the end of the day, he's gone into it with the best of intentions, and we advocated for him as a board, and me publicly then being the face of the board, so to speak, as the chairman. But like I don't regret it. But I do, obviously, the benefit of hindsight, if I had my time back, I'd maybe go a bit into more detail on specific areas. Like, I didn't know he was going to jack up the ticket prices to 25 quid and 18 quid for OAPs. That would have been something I immediately would have told him was bonkers, and absolutely don't do that. But look, once he got control of the club, it was his prerogative and his choices. And yeah, I guess he's living and dying by those decisions now.
Probably Fergus asks, how are we expected to sit in Páirc Uí Chaoimh with a smile on our face and pretend we're all happy and rosy in a couple of weeks? Cork Super Cup was meant to be an occasion to show off the club. Instead, I feel like booing them when we concede.
Well, it's an occasion to help service the debt in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Let's not pretend here this was a Cork City FC showcase. Like, we were selected as a team to participate in this event organised by the GA and some other sports marketing company or something. I can't remember. Is it Druid Sports or something like that? I could have that wrong now. But yeah, like, at the end of the day now, a bit of shine has been taken off of this, because look, as Decky said earlier, there's 5% of City fans that know the stuff we know, and then there's 95% that couldn't give a damn, and they'll go to that game. I had people reaching out to me that never go to Turner's Cross, asking me if I could help them get tickets for that match. No, that was never going to be an issue anyway. I told them, like, I was like, come on now, Cork City and Celtic isn't going to sell out within 24 hours. And I'd say, with the way our club is, I'd say ticket sales now have waned a bit, and they're just, I don't know what kind of a crowd that game will get. And diehard City fans, I'm sure, are not excited for it. They'd rather us get 3 points on the board all day, every day, rather than even play that game. And it's not going to put any more butts in seats in Turner's Cross on a Friday night. You're not going to get the Barstoolers and the Celtic fans who never go to Turner's Cross go down to Páirc Uí Chaoimh and come away from that thinking, oh, those City fans put on a great show there in the City End Terrace or wherever. I'll head off to one of their games. You're not going to get that.
Yeah, okay. Darb asks, Decky, I'll go to you where, am I the only one that wants Usher to stay?
No.
Absolutely not. We've said it numerous times. But he has to get it right. And I'm just looking through stuff there now and I can't find it. But there was things like, and Decky was asked there about, does he regret it? I mean, come here. This podcast votes for him. He was on it twice before the vote. Like, I mean, you can only deal with what you have there and then. And I mean, there was somebody on Twitter last week calling us "see you next Tuesdays" and the rest of it because, you know, blaming us but not tagging us, but we saw it anyway, you know. That's fine. We'll take that. There's no issue, like, you know. The same person stopped us putting out a charity t-shirt once because they said the design had been used by Liverpool Football Club and was copyrighted to Liverpool. Not sure it was, but do you know what? We said we're not going to have the argument. So, you know, people who stop us raising money for charity are also calling us names on Twitter because Dermot Usher was on the pod. So, look, that's life. Circles go round and everything else, but I've completely lost my train of thought now on what I was going to say. But, oh yeah, sorry. It was just like things that Dermot said at that meeting the day we voted, you know. To be fair to him, he said, look, I'm not going to compete with Shamrock Rovers and Derry City in terms of budgets. I'm budgeting. Everybody else is fair game.
Yeah.
And we will, okay? That was understood. Kind of went, oh, Jesus, really? I thought we were going to try to win the league. But obviously, Shamrock Rovers and Derry, Philip Doherty putting in huge amounts of money every year, etc., etc. Understandable. But we haven't competed with everybody else. And this is year 3. Okay? Fair enough. Investment in the women's team was another thing. Sorry, no lads. Nobody's like, that just hasn't happened. And I'm not even going down that debate because there's nothing there to debate. Look at the state of things. That hasn't happened. What were the other things? I can't recall now. As I said, I was looking for, there was a snapshot floating around on WhatsApp and I can't find it. But
hiring a full-time marketing executive, hiring a full-time director of football, commitment to work with the MFA to develop Turner's Cross, and a commitment to end all gambling sponsorship associated with the club.
Yeah, okay. So, like, commitment to work with the MFA to develop Turner's Cross hasn't happened. Director of football hasn't happened. Liam Buckley came in, disappeared again, completely moved away from the director of football match. And Dermot stood up that day and said, look, and he did, I know nothing about football. I'm not going to interfere in the football side. I will leave the football people run the football side. I will run the business side. That hasn't happened. Clearly hasn't happened. So maybe, to be fair to Dermot, he needs to go back and look at the promises he made to the Forest members on that day and get back to those basics and get back to that and just say, okay, this is what I told the Forest members. So this is what I'm going to do. Look, we keep advocating for director of football. I'm not going to do it again. Commercial managers and marketing, full-time marketing managers and everything else. I think that was Aaron. I think that was the job Aaron got. Fair play to him. We've had an accountant come in and go in the space of 6 months. We've had that other chap that was hired a few months back. He's gone now again. I'm not going to mention his name because people just look him up. Well,
that's not fair, yeah.
Yeah, like there's staff been in and out and gone. We've been through a number of managers on the women's side, managers on the men's side. We don't hold on to staff. That's another thing, you know, in key positions. Like the in-house accounting was a massive thing for Dermot. I'm bringing the accounting in-house. The in-house accountant lasted 6 months and ran for the hills. Or, sorry, I should say left.
I know we have certain staff like that, you know, they've even been there since the Forest days. Like, I won't name them now, as I said, that's not fair, but everyone knows who they are, who are part of it. We're going to call them now the 5%. I have a new name for the obsessive type of Cork City fan that needs to know every detail. But, you know, you've got those folks out there that are, you know, lifers, we'd call them, like they go into that bracket in Bishopstown. Like, they're never going to leave under, you know, their own choice, you'd say in a lot of cases. But, yeah.
So I think, look, no, I think lots of people want Dermot to stay. They just want him to refocus and just get things right. And just get things right. That's it.
And I think the fact that so many people did turn up to that meeting, that alleged meeting,
that's short notice.
Yeah, that's a good sign, because, you know, it shows that, you know, the fans are open to giving Dermot a chance, giving him the feedback, seeing if he'll correct course, and giving him a chance. So I would say, you know, to that Twitterer, I didn't catch his name, sorry, Dan. No, you're not the only one. And yeah, you're not the only one. And look, just because there's a few chants and a bit of furore and upset on social media after we get a bad result, you know, at the end of the day, I think everyone thinks the same as Deck, or the majority of people would think. Dermot staying in charge is the best option for us, and getting things right, and maybe over time bringing in other investors then and things like that, and taking the financial burden off himself, because that seems to be a big thing that he wants to do, is reduce the financial burden. Like he mentioned it to the few people that turned up last Friday about the financial element that he's investing in. Investing, I hate using the word investing with League of Ireland. You're thrown into a black hole, like, I think maybe that might be something he looks at in the next 2 or 3 years as well. Reduce his stake and his own personal financial burden, because it does look like it's having a toll.
All right. We're going to look ahead now. Well, we actually are doing the Shels and Celtic reviews, because the Celtic game is on the Tuesday. This part will be out the Wednesday, so it is the 2-in-1. But anyway, the one that people actually, I'm known people actually listen to this pod care about, we'll focus on that one this Friday. Dickie, what are you expecting from this one?
Oh, look, it's going to be hard again. Obviously, Joey O'Brien has gone in at Shelbourne since Duff walked away. All of a sudden, they look a bit more of an attacking threat. But they've, like, under Duff and under Joey, they've lost the defensive solidity that they had last year. The question is, can we come up with a game plan that allows us to go to Talca and exploit that? And you would hope that we could. I presume Fiacre Kelleher is an absolute certainty to start, because he's been in around Bishopstown the last 3 weeks now or so. So you'd imagine he's a certainty. I'm not so sure that Rory Feely starts. Just based on Jernash saying that, he expected him in around the 1st of July. He'd definitely be in the 1st of July, maybe a little bit earlier, but he had personal things to sort out in England. And I presume Rory Feely's going to have a holiday, but the end of the English season, he probably went on holiday for a week or two. No issues with that. He's coming in. How much training has he done? What kind of condition is he in? You're starting a new centre-back. You're starting a new goalkeeper. Do you really want to start 2 centre-backs? 2 new centre-backs and a new goalkeeper? 3 guys in those absolutely most crucial defensive positions who've never kicked the ball together, who've never played together? I'm not so sure that's something you want to do. So I'm going to stick my neck out and say Feely starts on the bench. And it will be Charlie Lyons and Fiacre Kelleher.
I think so too.
Yeah, we need to correct. I think Lutz starts on the bench. We need to correct our attacking setup. Whether that involves bringing Malik in because of his pace and us sitting that little bit deeper and using Malik's pace on the break, that's something I could see happening. Does Cahill come back in and start and kind of give us another skillful outlet on that side? That's something I could see happening. But like, Shels are strong in the middle of the park, and if they get a stranglehold in there with Kerr McEnroy and the other lads there, it's just a matter of I worry that they get a stranglehold in the middle of the park, and you need to win those mid battles in the middle of the park to have a chance in a game. And I'd be hopeful we can get something out of it.
I think Daniels is available for selection.
At the moment he is, but Dermot told people that Daniels was gone, so I presume.
But if he hasn't got a club, has he packed his bags and he's gone over to Cork? Can anyone tell us this genuinely? The bloodline won't answer my calls anymore.
I presume he's gone. The way the commentary watching back on Virgin Media the other night as well, the way the commentary were talking about that, like Trevor Welch was saying he was leaving on Saturday morning. I presume that's coming, because obviously Conan Byrne was tipped off about the meeting that had happened earlier in the night, because 10 minutes into the game he was able to tell the whole of Ireland that the club had met the fans and it was a very positive meeting, and how brilliant Dermot was for meeting the fans and agreeing with fans. Like, who the fuck told Conan Byrne that?
I know, and there wasn't anything about it really building up on the forum or Twitter, or the people who were invited seemed to keep it pretty close to their chest, and it doesn't seem like something a League of Ireland commentator up in Dublin would have got wind of and would speak confidently about on air. Like, if they heard this happen.
most City fans found out about it. I don't know, Deck just disappeared there. Most City fans found out about it, Dan, when Conan Byrne mentioned it. That was the first mention most people knew of this meeting. So amazing that Conan had that insight. So if Trevor Welsh is saying that Daniels is probably going on Saturday morning, I presume he got the same insight that Conan Byrne got about the meeting, So
it might just be me and you finishing up here, I'd say, with the
it
looks
might be, yeah. I don't know what's after happening there, but
I'm back, lads. Can you hear me?
We can hear you anyway. You're recording again.
Yeah. Grand job.
All right. Look, Kerry, what do you think we're going to get from this game on Friday?
Nothing, Dan. I think a 1-0 or 2-0 win for Shels, unfortunately. Look, at best, it's a 0-0 for us. I can't see us scoring up there. And yeah, I think, as Deck said, I think they'll have a bit more of a bounce about them now that Duff is gone. I think, and I called this before he announced his departure. I think I posted about it on X. I think the players had gotten a bit wary of him and his style and his tough love approach. And I think maybe they are going to get their new manager bounce or their kind of fresh approach to it. So yeah, I think let's wait and see and hope they don't. But I think they'll be more up for this than we'll be able to handle, I would say. Not that we won't be up for it, but I think
decade a few months back, Shels Way, probably one of our best performances, if not our best performance of the season still to this day. Do you think we can get anything out of it this time?
I think we can. There's no reason, that we can't. I'm not sure Shels they're nowhere near as good defensively as they were last season when they won the league. And they're not as good going forward either. So, I think they're there to be got at. I think he needs a very specific game plan, sitting in, keep things tight, start Malik just behind Shawnee, give a bit of pace, allow us to play a ball over the top, turn Shels, press at the right times. But and everybody knows I'm not that big a fan of Malik, but I think this is a game for pace and, as I said, that setup that allows us to sit deep and flip one over the top and get them turned and get bodies chasing it. So I'm okay with Malik starting this one. I think we could get something out of it, definitely. Can I just say very quickly as well, I think people who are being disingenuous to Damien Duff and his time in the league and the rest of it need to have a long, hard look at themselves. Duff was brilliant for this league. Whether people like him on a personal level or don't like him on a personal level, I think to just say that he had little impact in the league and he did nothing and he was this and he was that is nonsense. He was a massive draw in the league. He helped put the league on the map. Every club has benefited from Damien Duff being around the league. Maybe, and I'm not being facetious here, maybe except Cork City, we seem to have missed the bounce that every other League of Ireland club or every other Premier Division club has gotten. But look, we are what we are down here, and that's the way things work out.
Yeah, he was a ball of fire, Deck, to be fair to him. And
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to see him gone, to be honest with you. I'm very sorry to see him gone.
Well, yeah, I was just finished on this one, Dan. I think my dig on the fact that he was gone and the players going, where that's just my age-old hatred of Shelburne. And
of course, absolutely.
Any furore or disruption that they experience, just I'm an old-school City fan,
Well, I think you're right. I think they had enough of him. Enough of the shouting and the roaring and the non-stop, but it is what it is. I think we'll win 1-0, Dan.
Okay. Celtic game on the Tuesday. I mean,
move on. God Almighty.
What team is? It's going to be under 20s team or what? Jesus, Watford on Friday after.
Do you know what? It's actually not the worst game for us. First things first. Our only role there is to facilitate Celtic and facilitate Celtic playing in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Kevin O'Donovan is on the Rappers podcast this week. I mean, the fucking chairman of Cork GAA on Cork City's podcast. I'll never understand it. I was in school with Kevin. Was in school with him for 5 years. Declan Carey's brother-in-law was in the same class as us for that length of time. Kevin's a lovely lad and everything else.
I had good interactions with him when I was chairman of the club. I listened to a bit of that pod and he mentioned about the club a couple of years ago were the first ones to bring underage, All-Ireland and Munster Championship winning teams to Turner's Cross to Bridge Robert. That was me. I invited them. I reached out to Kevin and the chairwoman of the time, of the GA, and I wanted to do it because, do you know what? It would have been something my dad would have been proud of, that, you know, a GA team enter Turner's Cross and paraded their trophy. And look, anyway.
And that's fantastic, but I'm just saying, like, our role in this game is to facilitate Celtic playing in front of Celtic fans in Cork and Ireland. And that's our only role. We're probably getting a flat fee, don't know how much it is, don't care. I've no interest in the game. I'm not going to the game. But my original point was, you probably get minutes into Rory Feely. You get minutes into Lutz. You get minutes into whoever else comes in. If it's a Hoban hasn't played long. Gary O'Neill needs minutes. Lee Stacey would need minutes. You know, Brendan Clark would need minutes. So actually, it gives us an opportunity to get minutes into players. But we play away in Waterford on the Friday night. And that game is absolutely huge. And like, people will lose their shit if somebody gets injured in this Celtic game.
Oh yeah, that's
like,
it.
They will go cuckoo. Like, so Ger will know this. He knows he needs to be very careful with team selections and everything else. Look, it's fine. It's a fundraiser. It's not our fundraiser. We're getting a flat fee. I've no interest in it. I've no interest in Celtic Football Club. I've no interest in sectarianism. Our rivalries built on sectarianism. Our football clubs built on sectarianism. And I know people will come at me for that. That's just how I see the whole Celtics Rangers thing. It's a rivalry built on religious bigotry. That's just how I see it. And it doesn't interest me in the slightest.
At the end of the day, I'm just going to be a selfish Cork City supporter again at the end of the day. And look, hindsight will be great on this one. If we make it through the game unscathed and those players get the minutes in their legs and it helps them to help us get 3 points on the board in the next league game, great. But again, if Fiacre picks up an old tinge or whatever and then he misses the Waterford game or something like that happens, like, again, then, you know, fingers will be pointed. And again, that's all just a result of where we are on the table. Everything the club does will be looked at extreme scrutiny because it's all about getting 3 points on the board and delivering in the league. So yeah, that's what it's all about.
All right, we're going to wrap it here. Dickie, your last word to the toe tappers out there.
Last words? I mean, I don't know. Jesus Christ, I'm working you say to people.
This was a positive pod, I thought.
Yeah, just keep the faith, like, whatever. That's
what happens when the wane's away.
Like,
yeah, I agree, yeah.
Like,
the grump is
gone.
gone.
Say to people, do you know what? Here's the thing.
Realism.
Here's the thing. Nothing I say is changing anybody's opinion. If somebody's entrenched in Dermot Usher is brilliant and the podcasts are very unfair to him, I'm not changing that. If somebody's position is Dermot Usher needs to spend way more money and he's been ridiculously harsh on the podcast and fans and everything else, you're never changing. We're so far in now. Nothing I say, nothing this podcast says is changing people's opinions on how they see this thing. The only thing that changes opinions is results and performances on the pitch. That's the only thing that will alter people's opinions.
And I think that I'll just finish. I 100% agree with that. I won't echo what you've said or paraphrase it. Spot on. But I just have to say before we wrap up the pad, how great was it to see Raymond Armitage the fourth back again. You know, he's been jetting around Europe there by the looks of it as well, according to X. And, you know, geez, he was in Monaco today and he was in Munchen the other day.
Well, wasn't Wayne in those exact same places at the same time?
Allegedly. But you know what? Maybe there's a bit of El Grande Americano about this. Like, you know, who is Raymond Armitage IV? I fully believe he is an independent individual with his own personality. I've been a long time fan of his and it's great now to actually potentially work close to him. Hope to meet him in TOTAP Tower sometimes. You know. Adios, amigos. Zero miedo, amigos.
Adios.